All right, I'd like to call to order the Board of School Trustees business meeting for Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And we will start out with a presentation from CHS Athletic Council.
So, good evening, everyone. Tonight I have with us Mrs. Andrea Van Meter, our athletic, oh my gosh, I'm brain dead at this time of day. She's our amazing athletic director. I was going to say athletic leader. She's that too. With her, she brought some of our student athletic council. We have a small group tonight. Most of our members are at the academic meet. So those that could come came, and we are very excited for them to present.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for having us tonight. Like Mrs. Blum said, we are very small tonight because lots of different factors. One of those factors is, yes, we have an academic meet. So if you can kind of look at some of our stats that I've put up on here, we have 24 total members. 14 of those members carry a 4.0 or higher GPA. And I would say about half of those students are on the academic team, so they are competing. And of course, since the weather decided to stop raining and be nice, a lot of our outside teams finally got outside tonight, so they're taking advantage of being out there before the rain comes in tomorrow. So that is why we are with these three wonderful kiddos. And I'll let them kind of tell you their names and kind of share what they've done and how many years they've been part of the council. But just a little bit of our background. These kiddos are leaders not only in the classroom, but the playing surface in the community. I would say 0 office referrals from all 24 of them. They are handpicked by their coaches. So every year at the beginning in July when we meet with the coaches, we ask them to nominate deserving athletes that they think would make an impact, not only on their teams, but also in the classroom and in the community. And then we take those nominations, and at myself, Mr. Havlicek, I know Mrs. Becker is new with us this year, so she'll kind of go through that process. And we kind of sit down and talk about, how do they fit? What do we need? We try to have sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and we try to have a pretty decent, even number. This last year, we only brought 3 new individuals in because we had a very large junior class that were going to be seniors, so we didn't graduate very many. But all of our sports, I think right now, except for one, and that student couldn't make it work to be a member of the council. But all of our sports are represented, and some of them multiple times because we have tri-sport athletes. And so these wonderful young people, not that they didn't have anything to do tonight. One had to get physical therapy done fast, one was at track, and one is a manager for the baseball team. So they all were somewhere before they came, but they're going to share a little bit about what we do with the SAC. Guys, right? Okay. So I'm going to click the left button.
Yeah. Okay. My name is JC Wilhelm, and I'm a senior. I am a 4-year member of the girls basketball team, and I'm also a 3-year member of the athletic council. I was, when she got here, is the first year that it started, so I've been a member for all 3 years. We're just going to talk a little bit about the different things we do. One of the things I'm going to talk about is sponsor night. So it's kind of an all hands on deck night. We have members that help our sponsors get lined up in the bowl. It's a night that we just use to thank all the sponsors that have given money to the athletic program. So we have kids that help line our sponsors up in the tunnel at the bowl. We have kids that help hand out plaques to our sponsors. And then we also normally have a student read out loud the names of our sponsors on the microphone. One of our next events is the Winter Sports Awards program. So we have a program after the fall, winter, and spring season that all of our middle school and high school sports are recognized at. So we always have greeters at the door handing out programs to parents and visitors that just have the names of all the athletes and what sports they play. Then we also have speakers up on stage that talk about they talk about the middle school teams, and then we always have a senior speaker that talks about their time as an athlete at CHS.
And JC was our senior speaker this winter. So.
My name is Allison Bador. I have been a member of the golf team and the cheer team, and I've been a part of athletic council for 2 years. And in the last 2 years, we've gone to St. Gabriel's, and we tried to talk to them about competitiveness and trying to not make it such a big problem. We would eat lunch with them, we'd go to recess, and sometimes we'd go in the classroom and talk to them about being competitive and being on a team and what it's like. And then there's some pictures from going to St. Gabriel's. We also would attend at Fayette Central and have lunch with them, and we would talk about just sports and what it's like and talk about their richer principles and what all it intakes at Fayette Central. And at one point, we also went to classrooms and made cards for the nursing homes in town.
I'm Arthur Struing. I'm a junior. I am a 2-year member of Athletic Council and a 3-year member of the cross-country and track teams here at the high school. So along with Fayette Central and St. Gabriel's, we visited some of the other elementaries and talked to them more about being like respectful and how to be an athlete and like what other stuff it takes to be an athlete at the high school, because it takes more than what it does at, you would say, like the elementary school level or the middle school level. So, and there's just some more pictures of us playing with them, teaching them how to be good sports, just having a good time with them. And then every year as a group, our SAC program goes to Pendleton Heights and meets with other groups that are other athletic councils from other schools that also, or we go there, we talk about a bunch of like qualities that we should display as athletes and how we need to lead our programs at our own schools.
So we were also able to get an athlete to represent each sport, and some photographers came in and took pictures, and Reed then like made banners and everything out of it. So if you'll see like Reed banners hanging up in the bowl, a lot of those pictures were taken this day. So here's a group picture of all of us. As you can see, like almost every single sport was represented there. Then lastly, we have our track or treat event. It's probably one of the biggest events we put on because we have almost every single sport, high school and middle school, that come together around the track. It's kind of like a trunk or treat, except it's around the track. We dress up, we give the little kids candy. It's a lot of fun, and if you've ever been there, you'll see that people are literally lined up like all the way back to the swimming pool almost. So yeah, we got this big gorilla guy that was there last year.
He was a hit. He couldn't walk across the football field by himself. The little girls had to walk him across because he couldn't see very well. And it was kind of windy, so it was a little top heavy. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions for any of these kiddos or anything else you'd like for us to share with you?
This is so cool because the little kids in town are going to look up to the athletes. They go to the football games, they go to the track meets, they go to the soccer meets, and by having an interpersonal relationship with those kids, it's like, wow, they're going to be Spartan fans for life, which is exactly what we want, or be more willing to participate. This is just, you have read to kids, you show them that there's more to being an athlete than what they see out on the field, and I think that's just fantastic. You guys do a great job.
And last year I kind of burned them out. We went, Fayette Central asked us to do the richer principles with them, so we went every month to Fayette Central to do a new letter of the richer principles. And I think our kids were a little burnt out because every month we were doing that, and then we were also doing some other meetings. And so this year I've been a little nicer. We haven't been as crazy. But if I send a message out and ask kids, I have a ton. All the pictures that you saw were from these guys sending them from their personal phones to put on this spreadsheet or this slideshow, because I think they enjoy it just as much as the little kids do, especially recess. Colton DeBoard asked me if we could go back to the elementary so we can go play kickball with the elementary kids. So they love it just as much as our kids do.
Can you share with everybody the richer principles?
Oh my goodness, Leslie. Yep. There is a respect, integrity, caring, Go ahead.
Harmony.
Harmony, excellence, the other R. Responsibility. Yes.
Sorry to
Sorry.
put you on the
No,
spot.
you're good. We did it all the time. So they had a great time because at Fayette Central we did the caring one, and that's where we made the cards for the nursing homes. And we
Oh, that's
delivered
great.
them to all the nursing homes in town there for just, I think we did it for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. And
Oh,
so we
wow.
printed off some pictures for the kids to color so they didn't have to draw their own. And we had a lot of cards, lots of cards. So great times.
And congratulations to you, JC. I saw you
Thank
sign
you.
today.
Yeah.
You want to tell them what happened?
So I got accepted into like a 2-year ag program with Keystone Cooperative, and from there they'll let me like explore all the different areas of their business, and then after 2 years, hopefully I will get a permanent job there.
Congratulations. I saw it on your Facebook page today.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And the kiddos, we brought some shirts. I don't know if you guys have a shirt, but it's our sponsor shirt of the year. So we're gonna put them out there on the counter. So before you leave, please make sure that you grab one. And if there's people that aren't here, I'll just leave them here and just make sure that everybody gets one. So it's all of our kids, 7, 12, get these shirts during the year. So we'd like to share that with you as well.
Another spring shirt?
Another Spartan shirt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you.
Yeah, you get to just stay.
Just stay.
New diploma requirements.
Yes, so next up we have diploma requirements. Last month, the month before, we touched a little bit on the new requirements, pathways, all of those things. And as I promised, our amazing counselors would be here tonight to go over the presentation with you. I'm going to turn it over to them.
Okay, I have a copy of the presentation that I'm going to go over right now for you, and then I also have just a one-page double-sided handout with all the information of the new requirements. So I'm Crystal Frank. I'm one of the counselors at Connersville High School. I have students that are at the end of the alphabet. I have all the P through Z students. We have Jamie Becker. She has the beginning of the alphabet, A through F, and Julie Bell, who has the middle, G through O. So they go. So we're going to talk to you tonight about the new diploma that's coming up that will start with the class of 2029. So I always like to start out, we've already presented to the 8th grade parents, but I like to start out, why did the state decide to change the requirements? Because these are some really big changes that are coming through right now. So the first thing is, we're seeing fewer kids go into higher education, and then fewer who finish college and graduate. Students are not graduating with the skills they need to get jobs. Students are thinking of enlisting, but then finding out they're not qualified. And then, of course, student apathy is very high towards education, and so that leads to a lot of increased absenteeism. Absenteeism? Yes, that word. So that's kind of where they're at. This comes also, these same reasons why come from the presentation that the Department of Ed put out when they presented all the new changes. Okay. So on December 11th, 2024, they passed the final rule, and as I said, this new adopted diploma will start with the class of 2029, and so those are our current 8th graders. Now, the class of 26, 27, and 28 can opt into the new requirements if they choose to, but they will, right now, we have them all following the old requirements, because that's what they started at. And as we move forward and get more information from the DOE, it may be a conversation that we have with kids that they want to opt into the new diplomas. Okay, so I'm just gonna roll right into what it is. So currently, we have essentially 4 diplomas that a student can get. Everyone starts out going for a core 40, then they can opt to do one of our honors diploma, whether it's academic or technical. If a student starts high school and we find that they're struggling, we can drop down to a general diploma. So at this point, we have 4 options. Moving forward, there will be one base diploma for every kid, and it's 42 total credits. And then besides their diploma, besides earning all their credits, they will have to either complete a graduation pathway or opt to join what are called readiness seals. And the readiness seals, they're kind of along the lines of what our honors diplomas are right now. So the first proposal that the DOE sent for the diplomas did not go over well with lots and lots of people, teachers, educators, colleges. Then they rewrote it, and it looks a little more similar to what we're used to seeing. So, okay, so the first thing is those 42 credits. How do they get those? Well, everyone has to have 8 English credits. That's not changing, but how they're distributed is going to change a little. Everyone has to have English 9. That's how it is now. Moving forward, everyone will have to take a communication focused course. And there's a big list that the DOE has put out of courses that will qualify, so students can choose. Same with the 5 additional English credits. Again, there are going to be choices that the kids can have. And the thing with this new diploma is there's a lot more choices for students. Excuse me, sorry. Because they are trying to have them have a stake in their education, thinking they want to come to school. Sorry. Normally, I'm always doing the listening, not the talking.
So next they have to have 7 math credits, 2 from Algebra 1, a personal finance credit, and 4 additional math credits. And again, they put out the new course requirements, so students will have the choice for those additional math credits. 7 science credits, 2 biology, which freshmen will take next year, a computer science credit, and 2 STEM-focused science credits, plus 2 additional science credits. And again, that's student choice based off the course offerings that they're requiring.
Can you explain the difference between STEM-focused science credits and additional science
Yep,
credits?
so the STEM focus would be the CTE courses, if that makes sense. I can let
So
you
we have
jump
some,
in.
like, for example, the advanced life science and class counts as science.
Okay.
It's also CTE.
Okay.
On April 4th, the DOE put out a new list of the actual courses that will be allowed to fit within those categories. And then 5 social studies credits, so 2 US history credits, a government credit, and 2 world perspective credits. So those again could be student choice, they could be dual credit classes that are, based on that world perspective. 1 PE credit and 1 health credit, a college and career credit, and then 12 elective credits.
Can you give a little bit more information? So this is again for the 42 base requirement, base credits that a student has to
Yeah.
have. And when you talk about world perspective, is that world history?
So it can include world history, geography and history of the world. It can also include a higher level, level 3 or 4 foreign language class.
Okay.
So if a student chooses to take Spanish or French, French 3 and Spanish 3 would count as their world perspective credits. But if a kid doesn't want that because maybe they don't want to take a language or that's not a class that they're going to be able to do, they could take geography and history of the world, and that will count.
And then the college and career credit, is that the dual credit or no?
We have 2 options for that. We have preparation college and careers, which is not dual credit, and then we have career information exploration, which is tied to an IVYT credit, which is a student success credit through Ivy Tech. And what we've done with the current 8th graders is we've had our early college high school kids sign up for the one with the college credit, and then other kids take the preparation. And one of the reasons we did that is because if a student decides they want to get their associates in general studies, they will need that IVYT success credit. They are 2 different course codes, so if a student who did not take the Ivy Tech college class when they were a freshman, they can still take it later because there are 2 different DOE course codes. So they can have a credit in both of them.
So we'll have 8th graders actually incoming freshmen next year, actually taking a dual credit class.
Yes, they can actually take that class or our Intro to Engineering and Design, which is also dual credit. They can also take Principles of Agriculture, which is also dual credit if they choose one of those.
I simply have a question about that. Are we going to hit them with something that they don't have a good background, so this is gonna jar them and scare them a little bit because it's gonna be so much more difficult, like, because college classes are incredibly difficult, more difficult than high school classes, and these kids are coming out of middle school. So I guess how are we gonna adapt those things so we don't put them in a situation where they get easily frustrated, as we know freshmen do, and say, ooh, I don't wanna do this anymore. I just have a problem with a dual credit class being with a freshman, and the anticipation and the amount of work that typically goes into a dual credit class, putting that on a 14-year-old.
So the classes that I mentioned, we have actually had those for years available to freshmen.
Okay.
They are, all of our dual credit courses are aligned to a high school course. And so the high school, so really what it is the teacher is teaching the high school information and then just adding on whatever the college information is.
Okay.
So the teacher can do the class how they choose. You know, they can look at their students and say, okay, this topic was kind of difficult, let's go about it a different way.
Okay.
And
So
so-
it's not the lockstep curriculum kind of stuff that you have if you teach a required class that you put it's on Atlas and you go, well, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. There's more
It's blended.
flexibility involved with
Yeah,
that.
There's more flexibility.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mine is in one and he likes it a lot.
Yeah.
okay,
And
okay.
a really good thing too is a lot of those, kind of introductory classes, we do have a lot of freshmen in there together, so they're all kind of learning it at the same
Okay.
time. And the teachers are very aware that, that this might be their first college class that they're taking, so they kind of take it slow and slowly introduce it to them as well.
Okay.
Do you guys have any more questions about the credits required? So we are still waiting. Every year, the Department of Education puts out their course description guide that tells us what classes count for what. This year, because of the new requirements, they put out a description guide, but it did not have the information on what classes count for what. It just had a description of the course. So they're telling us they're going to have a companion to the course description guide, and we are still waiting for that. So we'll know even more once we get that information. Okay, besides doing all 42 of those credits, students will have to decide if they want to do what's called the graduation pathway or what's called a readiness seal. So right now, all of our current 8th graders, we went to the middle school. Well, I went to the middle school, met with all of them. They had a sheet. We picked classes. All of their classes that they have picked, we'll put them online for this path right here, a graduation pathway. And then once they get to the high school, if they choose to do one of our readiness seals that I'll talk about here in a second, they can. Okay. The graduation pathway starts with 3 parts. The first one is they got to do all 42 of those credits. The second part is they're going to demonstrate employability skills, which I tell the kids it's can you work well with others, can you do some work. They have 3 options: project-based, service-based, work-based. A lot of our kids fall into the service-based and work-based because for service-based, sports, clubs, 4-H, scouts, long-term volunteering, and then kids that go to Whitewater or have a job, they can do either one of those. And they only have to choose one, and they have all 4 years to complete one of those. Okay?
So when you say they've got all 4 years, do they have to do 4 years of 4-H, 4 years of volunteering?
No, as long as they do it at some point while in high school.
So there's no hours, it's
No.
not dependent on it? Thank you.
Okay, then the last,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, when the freshmen come in,
mhm.
are they, back to your previous, are they going to be put into one of those categories immediately? And I know the freshman classes did not have as much basically they were told you will take this.
Right.
In your freshman year, they had fewer choices, which was fine, fewer choices as to what they were going to take. So are they going to be put in one of these 3 ostensibly, but they have the ability to get out of that if they find after their freshman or sophomore year, this isn't the route they want to go.
Usually the way that we do it when we talk to kids is I will ask them, hey, are you in a sport? If they tell me yes, I'll be like, okay, what sport is it? And I write it down and put a check. Or if they say, I work at Wendy's. Okay, I don't say you're going to do this.
Okay.
I ask, what is it that you are doing?
It's student driven.
Yes, it's very, all of this is supposed to be very student driven.
And I think the main point, every freshman is going to start on a pathway, so they have that choice. If they choose to opt into a SEAL, their schedule will really open up their sophomore year to pick a different
Yeah,
path.
so they have the flex,
Absolutely.
your freshman year is pretty well tied down.
It is.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then once they've been there for a year and get,
It can open up.
find out what they want to do and find out what they're interested in, then they can make the shift into something else if they
Right.
so choose.
So the third part of that pathway is they have to show post-secondary ready competencies, which I tell kids is this big fancy terms for, do you have some academic skills? And so they have some options. With their, all juniors will take the SAT on the SAT school day. So they're not picking one of these their freshman year. We have all 4 years to sit, and we talk to them every year when it's time to like pick your classes. And we talk about all of this stuff. So they could take the SAT and get a minimum score. We could check that box. Or the ACT, check that box. We have a lot of kids that take advantage of the 3 dual credits because we have so many options for dual credits. All of our freshmen are set up for a next level study pathway. They all had to pick a principles course. And so they'll all take a principles course, which is the first course in the pathway. And then when we meet with them in February of their 9th grade year, we'll say to them, okay, what do you want to do next? Do you want to continue taking courses in this pathway, or do you want to go to the WCC? Or do you want to take more dual credit classes? Like, we're going to be meeting with them to give them options. But we wanted to set them up on the right path at the beginning. Kids can take the ASVAB Career Exploration Exam. They have to have a score of 31 or higher and then sign the military enlistment intent form. That is an option. Another option is getting an industry certification. So that'd be like your cosmetology license, your CNA license, those things. Or we just adopted locally created pathways for music and choir. So now we have something for those kids as well. I'm a parent to a kid who's in 7th grade, and I think a lot of the options that we have are going to be great. My daughter's very different than my son. She's going to, flourish at everything, and he's going to be like, Mommy, I don't want to do it. So, this is a good setup for him. It's also a good setup for her because she'll probably take classes that she wouldn't have taken otherwise.
The next level of study pathway, can you just name what some of those pathways are?
Sorry to interrupt you. So this, in the past 2 months when we talked about the different pathways and how we didn't meet box 3 with the graduation waiver rate and all of that. So the pathways are like the business pathway, the ag pathway, we had 3 and now we're gonna have 14. So that's what the pathway is that she's referring to.
So would that be what we consider a major, like when you're
Similar,
talking about?
Yeah,
Similar, yes,
because the way I explained it to the students is I said it's a group of courses focusing on one skill.
Okay.
So like one of our new pathways starts with principles of biomedical science. And that, to me, that's going to be really cool because we might have kids that maybe they're thinking medical, but they don't actually want to be a nurse. So they don't want to go to the WCC, but they still want to do something in the medical field. And that would be a good course because they'll take that one, medical terminology, and then anatomy and physiology. Because for the NLPS pathways, there are 3 courses required. The principles course, a concentrator A, and a concentrator B.
Okay, just 3.
Just
And
3.
each are 2 semesters.
And each are 2 semesters.
That's
Yep.
the 6. Okay.
It seems to me, we've gone from 3 pathways to 14.
Yeah, we found a lot.
That's an awful lot. And it looks like we're trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle with there's a lot of moving parts to this, and I really appreciate what you're trying to do, but it just seems a bit daunting.
So-
To try to do that with, particularly since we're not getting the guidance from the state of what classes fit what.
Mhm.
You know, if we have, some of them are pretty obvious, but some of them are not.
So what we did is like, we've met often and we're focusing right now on those ninth graders, those current eighth graders going to ninth grade, because we don't know all the information. So there's no sense in trying to build a puzzle with a picture you don't have,
Okay,
So that's why we have focused mainly on should they take in ninth grade. And then we can build the rest of their 4-year plan once we have all the information necessary.
and then you'll know better how to build it because you know where the kids, because
Right.
if, I'm imagining 14 pathways, you could have course offerings all over the place that we simply would not have the staff or the number of kids taking to make them viable.
The great thing is all of the pathways we've created are based off the teachers we already have in their licensing and what they're able to teach. And a lot of the pathways start with the same principles course, so the principles of business course can lead into music, choir, band, also business, also, that's it for
Yeah,
now.
that's definitely.
Yeah, so the freshman class is kind of going to be the guinea pig with it,
Absolutely.
with this.
And also you have to realize that the state is now making this a requirement. They used to allow us to use ASVAB. Now we are not allowed to use that unless they're enlisting. Therefore, we had all of those kids seek a waiver for graduation, which is why our adjusted graduation rate was so low.
Yeah.
So because of that requirement, we have to provide more opportunities for our kids.
Yeah.
So that's, a lot of this is, even though the state hasn't come up with clear expectations on the course, they know what the expectation is, and we know that. We just gotta make sure that we have it set up so that kids are successful from the get-go and they're not playing catch-up. Like we have some kiddos now that are playing catch-up that didn't have those pathways already selected, and as juniors and seniors, they're catching up so that they will be able to graduate.
So we're front-loading a little bit better than we
Yeah, we're being proactive,
Yeah.
which is what our job should always be, but sometimes it's hard to do that when the state changes all the time. But they're doing a great job of being proactive and trying to meet everybody's needs. All of our kids are very different, they have very different needs, so the more local pathways and pathways that you can create gives, without increasing your staff, gives them a lot more flexibility and a lot more choice, and that's what kids want.
And hopefully this would translate into less kids wanting to drop out.
Absolutely, yeah.
And because
We want them to be here.
they'll see more relevance and
Engagement.
engagement in what they do. Yeah.
So I have a sample student here that for the first thing, they earned their diploma, they got all 42 credits in 4 years. They did service-based learning because they were a member of student council and played soccer for a year. And then for the last one, they did a next level program of study in the human and social services pathway. They got 3 Bs and 3 B pluses. And so they have met all the requirements for a graduation pathway, so they are graduated. And they don't require a waiver. So that's kind of an example.
So how does this impact if they decide to go on to secondary, on to college? Are these pathways going to provide what those kids need to be able to successfully get into a 2 or a 4-year college?
So that's where the next part of the new requirements come in, where we have the honor seals. There's an honors and an honors plus seal for enrollment, employment, and enlistment. And I have those up here too. And it's gonna really, like, for example, math is a good example. So for math, if a student is college bound, we will have to look at the math requirements for their college, which typically is algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. So this is a conversation that we will be having with our students and saying, okay, you've been in high school for a year, now you've got your feet wet, you know what we have, now let's decide, like, which route do you want to go? And the Department of Ed is saying that between all of these options, kids should be able to pivot. Now, to be honest, if a kid goes, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and all of a sudden they're like, I want to go to college, and they haven't taken the harder level classes, that may be a little difficult, which is why we want to have those conversations early with them and often. So, If a student wants to not just do the graduation pathway, they can opt into what are called readiness seals. So there are two options. So we have the readiness seal for enrollment. They can do an honor seal or an honors plus seal. So for an honor seal, they have to complete, it should say 4 credits of world language, not 4 years, and 6 actual social studies credits. So for this one, they would need like the world perspective in a social studies class, because their foreign language is going to count for that world language. Then their social studies would definitely need to be like world history or geography, history, world, U.S. history, government, and most likely economics. There's one bullet I forgot. They need 8 math credits, which will include algebra, geometry, algebra 2, and an advanced math course. They have to earn, and then 6 actual science credits. So they have to be lab sciences. So that would be biology. Then they could do chemistry, physics, anatomy, physiology, like something that is a lab.
So it's very similar to the academic honors.
Yes.
Yeah,
that we have right now.
Yes.
Just say that looks an
Yes.
awful lot like.
They have to have C minuses or higher in all their classes for the semester, a 3.0 GPA at the end of their 4 years, and then they choose one, either 6 college credits or the proper scores on the SAT or the ACT, which most of our kids, they earn those 6 college credits. If a student takes advanced U.S. history for a year, they're going to get 6 college credits because it's 2 Ivy Tech courses. Okay, so that's the honors seal, and then if they want an honors plus seal, they will do all the stuff in the first box, plus they will earn a credential of value, so either the associate's degree, a technical certificate from like Ivy Tech, or the Indiana College Course Certificate. The associate's is 60 college credits. The technical certificates can be various numbers of credits depending on which one they're getting. We have ag certificates in that situation, and then the Indiana College Course Certificate is 30 college credits. Okay? They have to have 75 hours of work-based learning, and this can include like job shadowing, a job, an apprenticeship, an internship, and it's earned over all those 4 years. And even in the summer, they can do it in the summer. And then demonstrate skill developed in the following areas: communication, collaboration, and work ethic. So if a student gets one of these, this is what a college is going to look at, and I believe too there was something that was put out last week, that students who earn one of these could have automatic entrance into certain Indiana colleges.
Yeah.
So that's a
What are the,
nice things.
the last bullet, demonstrate skill development in the following areas, how do they do that?
We don't
We
know
don't know
yet.
yet.
That's what we're. Yes.
Companion guide will be coming
Yeah.
soon.
They haven't told us that. Yeah, they're still working on that. Okay, so this is in enrollment. The next one is in employment. So this is going to be compared to our technical honors diploma. So a lot of kids that go to the WCC, this is where they will fit. To get the honors seal, you have to complete one of the following, which is a market-driven credential, which is what they can get at the WCC. They can take 3 courses in a career and technical education pathway, which for all the programs at WCC, that is the first year, is the 3 courses they're talking about. An approved career preparation experience aligned to Indiana's CASA program, that is another one of those bullets that we're like, okay, what does that mean? That we're still waiting for information. And then they can also opt into an approved locally created pathway. They complete 150 hours of work-based learning, and then the demonstrate, the skill development, and the attendance goal, that's still information that we're waiting to find out on. So that was if someone wants an honor seal in employment. If they want the plus, they do all that in the first box. They also get one of those credentials of value, the associate's technical certificate or the college or an advanced industry certificate, which WCC does have some of those available. They complete an additional work-based learning of 650 hours. Again, it's from all different things: apprenticeships, job shadowing. It can be virtual, it can be in person. They have lots of options. And then, of course, the demonstrate skill development in those areas. Okay, that's if a student would like an employment. All right. So again, typical, like our technical honors right now. And then the last one is a readiness seal and enlistment and service. If they want the honor seal, they need to take either they take the Introduction to Public Service course or an approved locally created equivalent, which, and I think like the one thing they kept talking about in all the presentations that I watched about this diploma was that for the enlistment is kids aren't physically fit enough to enlist, essentially. That was one of their big things. So they want to make sure that kids know, like, if you're going to try to enlist, you got to be physically fit and have the proper character. They need to take the ASVAB and score a 31. And then with that, they need to either visit the Career Exploration Program website, which when we did give the ASVAB, I would show kids that website. We would take their ASVAB score and we would do the Find Your Interest survey that's in that site. And then they could take their scores from the ASVAB, their interest survey, and they can look at different careers. It's actually a very nice website. But you can't use it if you don't have an ASVAB score. Or they use a career exploration tool approved by the DOE. Again, they need attendance goal, and then those demonstrate the skills in communication, collaboration, and work ethic. So that's if they want an honors seal. If they want the honors plus, they must do all those things in the first box, and then they either take the ASVAB, they can take it again, they can take it more than once, they get a higher score, or they are in an ROTC program at the collegiate level. Or they have an acceptance into a service academy. And then they have to demonstrate leadership by either doing 100 hours of public service, holding a leadership role in an extracurricular co-activity, or competing in 2 seasons of a team-based physical sport or activity. So that's if a student wants an honors plus seal in enlistment.
This is for kids that have basically made up their mind that they want to go into the military after high school.
Correct. Correct. Yep. So that's a lot of information. Do you guys have any other questions?
It's a lot for you guys.
Yeah.
They've been amazing, so.
Yeah, and it will be a lot when it comes along, and I'm sure you'll tweak it as you need to.
It would be nice if you really had a better guidance from the state as to what some of this stuff looks like.
Yeah, it would be nice, and they put out information all the time, like, it's coming, we promise. There's a listserv, the email called Counselor Talk that counselors all over the state join, and people will go in there like, hey, has anybody seen this yet? And someone will be like, no, I think it's coming. And then someone from the state will come in and say, okay, it's coming, we promise, it'll be here, just give us time. So, yeah.
I did want to share with you that some of us were at the National School Board Association conference, and I went to both Jeremy and I went to a workshop. No, it wasn't that one. It wasn't on Portrait of a Graduate, but it was some workshop, and they talked about, and the speaker was not from Indiana, and they talked about how Indiana is the model for the graduation pathways, that all states will be moving towards this apparently, and right now we are the model. So I thought that was really interesting.
I will say, when we were meeting with students this year, it was, I say overall, like the easiest conversation to have with students about like, where do you see yourself, where are you going, what are you doing, you know, so many of them, early college, high school has now been along for almost their entire lives, and so they're like, I want that ICC, I want the associates, I want to take dual credits, but I might not want to finish this, or we have students automatically, I definitely want to go to the WCC, or they're interested in these pathways now, they hear the staff talking about them and they're excited, so would you guys agree that this was like the easiest year to meet with the students, and most of them had an idea of what they want to do instead of like, I know which class do you want to take.
Yeah. I would say our teachers at the high school have been so receptive to working through this. So they're, I think, excited about some opportunities to teach some different things, you know, based on their license, and it's gonna be great.
So how hard would it be if someone did, like, say they wanted to be in enlistment and service, and then they did want to switch later to enrollment?
They'll still have those, the base diploma
Yeah,
and
if
fallback one,
possible,
and
yeah.
enough room in their schedule throughout the years to be filling in different areas too.
Yeah. And I think that really goes with how frequently our counselors are meeting with students as we're scheduling each semester. You know, they can shift and change at semester, so we'll definitely make sure those opportunities for kids are, known, parents too.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Am I loud? I'm so sorry. This is the first board meeting I've ever met as the superintendent, but thank you for understanding. I'm in San Diego right now. I received a scholarship to attend a large ed tech conference, and so I'm learning and growing away from home, hopefully to bring some good things back to Fayette County. But I couldn't tell if that was Jamie or Julie that was talking a moment ago about how scheduling has become easier with students, and I just want to shift thinking a little bit and say, what's the purpose of a diploma, and what does it do for a child in life? And that's really what the new diploma requirements give us as school leaders, the flexibility to do. In the past, it's simply been, here's your diploma, walk out the door, good luck in life. But we're starting to have those conversations with kids about how their strengths and giftings meet what brings them joy, meets potential pathways to gainful employment, and having those earlier than we did previously. I know there's always a fear of pigeonholing kids too early into a pathway that they're not necessarily interested in. But I want you to know that those conversations, even if I go down a pathway that I want to be a teacher, and I decide when I'm 17 or 18 that I don't want to be a teacher, that's a world way better than spending $60,000 in tuition to find out the very same thing. And so we're having those conversations earlier. I think it's really, really good. We're working on building systems, again, to help our students understand their strengths and giftings. The work is happening. And so I just want to commend Mrs. Plum and the team. And I know, Ann, I heard your concern a little bit with the number of pathways. Those pathways and that base diploma have been around for quite some time. We're just trying to catch up there. So that work is happening. And to Kelly's point, just thankful for our teachers for their willingness to think outside the box and be flexible, right? We tell our kids all the time that we can do hard things and we can be flexible, and our teachers have done a really good job of modeling that. So great things are happening, good things are in front of us. I had a chance, actually, I was in a meeting this morning with Dr. Jenner, who's our superintendent of public instruction, talking about this very work and how do we do that and do that well for kids, so that way when they do reach the graduation stage, it's not a finish line, it's a launching pad to what's next. And so that really is what the work's about. So thank you guys for all your hard work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you for your time.
Gibraltar Design, Chris.
He's hiding.
That's what I'm sneaking.
I didn't see him. Thank you.
Good evening. That was a great presentation. I've read through that material a number of times already trying to understand it, but that was like the best digestible communication I've seen on it, so well done. And also the first presentation opened with mentioning how many office discipline referrals. I currently have 0 for the month of April, so things are going pretty well for me. Also with me is Victor from Skillman, and then also Mike Rosillo as well. So here tonight to give a current project update and then also an update on planning that's happened since we last met in February. Yes. Thank you for allowing me to click.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, board. I just wanted to give you a brief update on the current projects. Of course, the renovations at Frazee Elementary and the pool renovations at the high school. We have kind of a milestone coming up here. We finally got our mechanical units, which was really, if you recall, when we bid the project, there's just a long lead item for that equipment. So those are going to be installed this month. That's going to allow us to start the finishes. We're working in phase 1. There's actually 4 phases. We're really going to ramp up. Phase 1 was sort of getting out of the ground, getting these mechanical units, getting everything in place. And of course, you're always working out the bugs in the first phase, and then we're going to hit the ground running with phases 2 and 3. So phase 1 will finish up beginning of May. Phase 2 is going to kick in and start in May, excuse me, at the end of May. And then 3 will finish up in the summer, and then 4 will be the fall. So We're going to see those things come together quickly. Pleased with our progress, and a group of contractors are really working through this. Every time you remodel an old building, you always have little wrinkles, things that you anticipate, and so been working with our partners at Gibraltar to work through, those inevitable, unforeseen and challenges of an existing building. We're also making great progress at the high school. We've finished our demolition of the pool deck and the wall tile. We're working on our overhead work that we're doing above. Of course, the pool's been drained. I should have stated that first. And then we're working on the pool gutter replacement work, which also involves some structural repairs to the deck and the wall, where that joint between the gutter and the wall. So we'll start putting things back together here soon, all on track to really have both projects completed this fall. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Hopefully not too technical, because I haven't been on the job site for a little while.
That's good. So we'll have this finished. Frazee, you anticipate that we'll finish phase 3 by when?
Phase 3 is scheduled to wrap up by the start of school next fall. 4 will then progress into the fall, probably September, October.
Okay,
Be the last
so
phase.
we'll have minimal disruptions.
Yes, ma'am.
Minimal disruptions for the next school year.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, cool. All right.
It's going to be a busy summer.
Well,
So-
but the kids are not going to be in the building.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's the plan.
All right.
Thank you. Jumping into project planning for the future, I want to thank Superintendent Duncan, Mr. Harris, and Mr. Drew for the time that they spent with us. We've walked the buildings, revisiting that original benchmark that we created. If you remember at Frazee, we established a benchmark, but we chose a funding structure that was a controlled project, which meant we had a little bit less to work from. During that time, we've added some components back into the project. And so what we wanted to do with the team was reestablish what that benchmark was for Frazee, and then now let's look what it will be like as we apply it to the other elementary schools. And so we're going to go through a little bit of the past so that we can go a little bit forward. This is just our historical timeline. I think we're approaching in June of 2022 will be our 3-year anniversary of starting the conversations together. And so, over the course of 2.5 years, we've done quite a bit, but there's quite a bit ahead of us. But I'm also encouraged with what we've started, because what we've started is, again, we created using input and everything from our assessments to start this benchmark at the elementaries. Now we're starting to turn the corner and look at the rest of the schools as well. So when we look at the planning schedule, I want to make sure that the board understands that, through our finance partners, through legal counsel, we've learned that we aren't as stressed as what we thought to be able to make a decision by July 1, which means the schedule that you see in front of you is flexible. If we need more time, especially when we get the numbers in May, and if we want to roll up our sleeves and take a little bit more time, we can do that. Originally, we did this proposed schedule to keep you kind of on track in case you did want to make a decision by July 1, in case the state was going to make some adjustments to legislation that would either make it harder or easier. We wanted to make sure that you had that flexibility, knowing that there will not be that constraint on Fayette County. We have a little bit more time, so when you see the schedule, know that we can bump in some more months and some more touch points if we need that along the way. You have seen this before, but want to make sure that we revisit it. Probably really hard to see, but I'll summarize it for you. It's just, again, tracking your enrollment over the past decade of where you were and where you are right now. Where those areas of students, where that loss is happening. Created this historical enrollment data timeline. Again, you've seen this before, just wanted to make sure we revisit. What we're seeing is a 10-year decline is equal about 600 students. And if you think about that, that's more than one of your elementary schools from a capacity standpoint. So want to keep that in mind, because as that declines, you're still maintaining the same amount of square footage. Mr. Drew and his team are still cleaning, heating, conditioning, which costs quite a bit across all of that square footage, even though that you have 600 less students than you did 10 years ago. As we went backwards, we wanted to start, our starting point was, now that we have established Frazee, we're starting to look at the other elementary schools and also look across your district from those original assessments that were done in 2022. We're using this information to make sure that we're carrying forward, there's no hidden surprises. As you can see here, everything in the yellow is being completed for Frazee Elementary. We weren't able to get everything, and so as we move forward, we got what was most, what we had prioritized as the most important items on fixing Frazee, but we also will bring some proposals as you start looking at other elementary schools. If you do want to revisit certain items at Frazee, we'll bring that back forward, make sure that you understand the cost in some of those. But I also put this on there because it feels good to have a checklist and see we're getting something done. And there is a lot to do, yes, but we had to start somewhere. Looking at the learning environments as well, weren't able to accomplish everything on that list for Frazee, but we still got quite a bit done. When you think about what's going to happen in the media center, that the benchmark for classrooms, getting student and staff storage inside the classrooms and that refresh feel, and those are just the things that you can see. A lot is happening, as you know, at Frazee that you will not be able to see that will be fixing the HVAC. So as if you remember, we established this base option, which was that base benchmark for elementary schools. Now we have walked through the buildings, we've revisited. So basically what we're doing at Frazee, we're showing you what does that look like if we apply those exact same decision rules to the other elementary schools. It's also setting the stage for what we will be bringing back to you in May from an estimating standpoint from our partners at Skillman. So Mike is going to revisit, what is currently happening at Frazee. Just make sure that you have that picture of where we landed, because as you remember, we've added a little bit along the way. He'll establish that, and then he'll show you what that looks like at the other schools.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, everybody. It's good to see you again. It has been a long road, right? I mean, it's a couple of years now, right? And we're finally getting through this next phase, and we're getting ready to start the next phase and finishing the rest of the elementary schools in the district. As a reminder, on Frazee, which we understood when we did Frazee, it would be a benchmark school for all the other elementary schools. So we had to keep that in mind, especially with regards to the budget. So we knew that we were going to have that to work with as we move on. At Frazee, as a reminder, everything you see in color is work that's happening in the building, especially with finishes, refresh. The existing rooms are being refreshed with new finishes, new casework in the classrooms. Corridors are being refinished. The area that's being remodeled in this building is basically limited to the restrooms. And in that case, we opened the front end of the restrooms to have a wash lab accessible from the corridor. Let's go to the next. Oops. Sorry. Typical classroom. When we were designing this, we had an alternate. We had a base bid for very minimal casework. As we got into the construction, we realized, along with Superintendent Duncan, that a little bit more casework and storage was needed in the classroom. So we went ahead and added more casework, and this is what you see at Frazee now. Basically, you have a unit ventilator that's a vertical unit ventilator on the exterior wall. There's some storage cabinets below the windowsill. We removed all the existing metal shelving units and the horizontal unit ventilator that was in there. So that whole wall, the exterior wall, except for the windows, is new. And then opposite the teaching wall is student storage cubbies. There's a sink in the classroom and a tall storage unit. Now, at Frazee, there are a number of classrooms before we started remodeling that had sinks in the classrooms and bathrooms in some of the classrooms. And we don't normally see bathrooms in classrooms other than maybe like kindergarten rooms, but it made sense for this project here that we were going to do one-for-one replacements. So if you've already got restrooms in a classroom, you're going to continue to have restrooms, may have new fixtures in the restroom with finishes, but you were going to continue to have that no matter what grade level it was in. Same thing with the classroom sink. We don't always see classroom sinks in every classroom. Usually it's on the smaller grade levels, but in this case, there are a number of classrooms you might see in higher grade levels that have sinks in them. So that's a standard, that's a benchmark for all the other elementary schools in the district because they have the same situation. If you remember this is the restroom that gets renovated. One of the decisions that you made as a district is you wanted some private restrooms in each of the elementary schools. So wherever there's large group restrooms, the sinks are being taken out of the restroom and put in a alcove off the corridor so a teacher can make sure the kids are washing their hands before they go back to their classroom. With that, it was talked about having 2 private restrooms in each of those. And that's what you see here. Now, some schools, we don't have the space to do it exactly like this, but there will be a private restroom very close in the vicinity of those large group restrooms. So each school will have a couple of private restrooms associated with the remodeling of the restroom. Media Center at Frazee, when we started this, the only thing that we were doing in the Media Center was refresh the finishes and some lighting. And since then, we've talked about this a little bit more. It's probably preferred to have Everton Media Center as your benchmark for media centers throughout the district. You have a nice media center that's been finished, and so we'll probably, like Chris said, we'll probably go back in this next phase of work and probably add a circulation desk and some library shelving, because right now all that existing is to remain. So, but it has been finished, so you can kind of see it's half finished. So it will be finished eventually to follow that benchmark. Eastview, real quick, what you're looking at Eastview, same thing as Frazee. Restrooms get remodeled, new finishes. Again, the mechanical systems like the unit ventilators will get changed out in the classrooms to be vertical unit ventilators. You'll have the same type of storage set up. The one thing that might be a little bit different at Eastview than others, because it's unique to life skills. Your district life skills are located there. Currently, you have 2 life skills for a couple of grade levels located in that north wing across from the cafeteria. And then there's another remote life skills classroom near the kindergarten area. We were fortunate as we walked through these buildings just recently with Superintendent Duncan and Randy, along with Victor. We were trying to understand what are the standards for the district, and I think we were all on the same page as we were walking these buildings. But this building here, the life skill instructor was like, she saw us and she said, boy, it'd be really nice if I had all my kids together in one area of the building. Right now they have 2, and there's a washroom and a sensory room grouped in there, and it looks like it was built by you guys. And then the other classrooms separate. We'd like to see all those together. So this area is going to get a little bit reconfigured. That's why you see the orange color there. There's also going to be some plumbing associated with it in the restroom, because there'll probably be a private restroom with these kids in this area of the building. So this is a little bit different, but that pretty much is the same for the rest of the building.
Do the life skills room at Eastview have their own bathrooms at this point in time?
2 of them do, 1 does not.
Okay.
Because the one is down by the kindergarten room.
Okay.
Yeah, it's yeah.
And it actually does have a bathroom, but there's the room that in the back there is split. One side does, so they just have to go to the other side. So there's accessibility to a restroom. It's just not in the same room.
And I want to be clear, right now what you're looking at, Eastview, Everton, et cetera, these are ideas to maintain the benchmark. Nothing, absolutely nothing, has been decided about what we're doing on these buildings. So these are now going out as options into the future.
We didn't want you to, I mean, there's not a lot of variation between what you've seen in the past, but there's been enough variation that we wanted you to see it before we brought pricing and estimating in May, which is why we wanted to kind of reestablish that.
And it's also been 3 years.
Yeah, good point.
Since we started this whole process, and our needs may have changed, and certainly prices have changed.
Chris, will we put soundproofing in those new life skill rooms? What we figured in there?
Yeah, there were certain classrooms that we looked at the decking because you do have some classroom wall partitions that might need to be addressed. Some are structurally sound and there is not a concern. So situationally, there is going to have to be some type of conversation about the sound barriers between classrooms.
Just like at Frazee, like in the kindergarten classroom, there's a raised platform with folding walls in between the classrooms. Those walls are being replaced by permanent metal stud partitions that are acoustically sound, and that little platform's being taken out. So you have that in other buildings too. We have that portable partition. Sound is transferring between spaces. It's not the best acoustically, but so these buildings do have, some of the classrooms do have folding walls that are going to be replaced. Everington, very well maintained. Probably some of the finishes look a little bit more up to date, but still not what you would expect for the next 15, 20 years. So we do have new finishes planned in this building to be consistent with the other schools. Again, some restroom work. And this one here, there's 2 kindergarten classrooms. One kindergarten classroom has a restroom, the other does not. Talked to the principal and they thought it'd be nice if they could just move. I believe there's a space inside the classroom that's going to be moved to make way for a new restroom in kindergarten. And then Fayette Central, it does have some challenges with that, but like the other buildings, we would look at new finishes, restrooms, a little bit more restroom work in this building here. This one also, we have some options for the site, including some parking options, whether right now you have parking that's people back out on the road, maybe those are green islands and you build a parking lot to one side of the school to keep the cars from backing out in the street. There's also, I think, an option bringing utilities like water and sanitary. As you know, that's a pretty long distance. There's ways to make what you have better here as a base option, and that is what's in the base option, is just basically improve what you have. Grandview, same thing. Couple of restrooms, mostly finishes. The area in white, the gymnasiums, some of the surrounding spaces, like in the other buildings, the gyms have relatively new finishes in them. All the gyms have vinyl tile on the floor, and they seem to be in pretty nice shape, the finishes around the gyms.
And one thing I'll add for Grandview too is, depending on which hallway corridor, they have different storage solutions in the classroom, and all done in a different way at a different time period. So we wanted to make sure that we're very strategic about Grandview, because there's been some recent investment in some casework that we wouldn't want to take out. So it will be strategic from room by room as far as where would you invest in those classrooms. And then I get to close with some exciting news, because the hardest position for districts is when you're in a place that all of your schools need something at the exact same time. That's what keeps Mr. Harris up at night, that's what keeps Mr. Drew up at night, and ultimately Superintendent Duncan when they go to him. But what we're doing here, and what I want to commend this board, is that you have started a process that will build a long-range plan. And so you think about what you are fixing the pool now and setting your pool up for the next 15 years. You're doing that for Frazee as well. And so what that does is Frazee becomes not a worry, the pool becomes no worry, and then you can start putting your attention towards the next 5 to 9 years. And so what we're starting to develop is that long-range plan to know that you get your facilities on a cycle, so that you know that you're not going to have to invest in Frazee for a while. So then you can start to invest in these things that have been nagging that you've been looking at the high school, and then you can circle back to the elementary when it's time. And so you get on a manageable cycle versus having everything all at once. And so I think the future looks great, because you're starting that process to be able to look to the future to know when are we gonna have to invest and what are we gonna have to invest in and during that time period. So I believe, next steps for us, we have all of the information that we have shared with Skillman, so their estimating team is working through everything that you've seen tonight. And so we've gone through this process before, so when we come back in May, we'll be able to apply some numbers so that you can get a broad vision on not just one school in isolation, but you can see what your Frazee plan looks like if you were to apply it at the other elementary schools, and then we'll go from there, from our decision making. Any questions for us?
Chris, are we going to be impacted in any of this work by the tariffs in terms of cost?
Victor, I know his team has been tracking that a little bit more. We've been processing that. It seems a little early. I think everyone's a little spooked by the word
I don't
tariff.
think there's a set direction, but I didn't know what materials might be impacted if.
Well, we don't know either. To be the honest answer is, and we encourage all of our contractors to buy their materials. And when I said we're going through phases 1, 2, 3, and 4, but we're encouraging them to buy all the materials for all the phases. I don't know specifically, but sometimes we'll buy all the materials and they'll store it in an insured location. In fact, Mr. Harris may have already paid for some materials for phases 3 and 4. That's the best strategy. Just get the materials approved and on site. I think that the official answer is that this was a lump sum bid and they have no statutory or contractual way to come back for more money. But we'll just wait and see, because the last thing we want to have is a project delayed because we can't get that one material.
I think maybe I was at cost I was considering, but just can you get those? Where are they coming from? And
Right. I think we're all waiting for that. I've had one contractor sort of shoot a warning over the bow without any specifics. I think we're all waiting to see exactly how that might impact us. But that hasn't slowed contractors down from bidding the project, and we haven't had any impact to current projects.
Thank you.
But I can tell you that the ebb and flow is that if the economy slows down, then that makes bidding even more competitive. So because people are looking for work, so you may be paying more, but you may be getting it for less because you have more competitive bids. So it's one of those we will wait and see, as everyone else that's buying a car and everything else that's ahead of us. But it is definitely something that we'll be monitoring.
Chris, this is Mr. Duncan. When do you anticipate having those numbers? And then from the board's perspective, I just want the board to kind of be in the loop and make sure they understand this. Once we have those numbers in hand, then we can start making some decisions that are strategic in regards to which elementary school we want to chase after next. And which one makes the most sense, right, in terms of both cost and feasibility for the future and need as well. I mean, which one of those have the biggest needs? And so, Chris, you said next couple of weeks maybe that we'll have those numbers?
Yes, absolutely. I'll get the specific date from Victor for that. But we took a little bit extra time. I told Superintendent Duncan because we wanted to be very meticulous on this estimate just because it's been 2.5 years on some of the older items that we've looked at. Plus the other, Skillman looks at trend data. So they're looking at current bids on other projects to make sure that their numbers are always aligned. So do you have an official date that we'll be able to start to walk through those?
We anticipate to have our first pass on the numbers done early next week. We want to share that with Gibraltar's team to make sure that we are on the same page. And then with the hope that within another week, we're sitting down with you, Mr. Duncan, and with Mr. Harris and your team to talk about scope and dollars. There's still a lot of, these are big picture numbers, so we just want to make sure we don't miss anything, but at the same time, we don't overstate those estimates.
So what I'm hearing is, and Superintendent Duncan, we'll be able to have this in advance to the board so that when we come to the board meeting, they will have already digested those numbers.
That's great, and that'd be perfect. And I would say to the board that if you remember our last meeting that we had a work session prior. We talked about those thresholds for the projects that would put us in different categories. I would say that don't allow the petition remonstrance process to limit your thinking on what's best. I think if we've learned anything from this first round of projects, it's that we probably tried to do this first round on the shoestring budget, and we've since found out with the 1028 hearing that we had to have to come back and say, hey, we need more money to spend, that we need to do what we need to do to make sure those buildings are up to speed and where they need to be so they last for years to come. And so we'll talk more about that later, but just want to encourage you to think that way. And so as soon as we get those numbers, start chewing on them, we can start having those conversations. But thank you to the team for being here. Thanks, Chris, and all of you. We appreciate your work.
Thank you. And Superintendent Duncan, your team is doing a great job without you and Cindy this evening. So they can do hard things without you.
Something else.
It's not over yet.
He's walking out, it's over for him.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, agenda approval. Motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I so move. I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Public comments? No public comments. Approval of the minutes from the regular business meeting from 3/11/25.
With the full consent agenda there.
It's all together.
Yes,
It's all together.
yep. Personnel report, recommendations for employment, background, retirements, resignations, leave of absence, etc. Approval of the March 2025 claims, 70380 to 70619, and donations. A donation of $2,315.82 from the Fayette Community Foundation to Grandview Elementary Special Education Team to be used to purchase decodable readers. A donation of $3,430.35 from the Fayette County Foundation to CFSS to students with disabilities. A donation of $5,256.52 from the Freeman Academic Endowment to CHS to be used to purchase tools to advance academics. A donation of $3,000 from the 2025 National FFA Lilly Grant to CHS to be used for agriculture education. A donation of tools valued at approximately $4,000 from North Mechanical to Fayette County School Corporation to be used in the ag classroom at CMS. And now, seek a motion. I'll make that motion. Chris, second. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Then before going on, if I can
Yes.
make an introduction here.
Absolutely.
That's what the crowd
You made their day.
Yeah, they're like, we're getting ready to go home here, I think. But before I get to the introduction, I do want to thank three people, and I'll put a fourth one in there, but three are here. I'm getting ready to introduce the new principal of Everton Elementary, but I want to thank Natalie, Liz, and Andrew, as well as Amy Kefever. The four of them sat in on the first round of interviews with myself and Mrs. Casaro as we went through the process, and then we had the second round. But Kim, if you want to come up here a little bit, and we'll bring her up here, and I didn't tell you this, but you get time, but we don't allow speeches any longer than an hour and a half.
Okay.
But it is my pleasure to introduce Kimberly, or Kim Cook, as the new principal of Everton Elementary. Kim is coming to us from Rush County Schools, where she's been the Dean of Students and Homeschool Liaison at Milroy Elementary since 2023. She is married to Jeff Cook, who is here with her, who's a Rush County farmer. They live in Greenwood. She also has or Glenwood, what did I say? I said Greenwood, didn't I? Yeah, no, Glenwood, no, that's not that far. She has a daughter, Megan, who is a student at Clemson, We talked a little bit about that, but a little bit more on her career. She started as a 6th grade language arts teacher at Decatur Middle School, then went to Doe Creek Middle School. She then moved to actually her hometown at the time of Greenfield, not Greenwood either. But she was at Eaton Elementary School as a 5th grade teacher and a 1st grade teacher. Then she moved as a 1st grade teacher to Rushville Elementary West. Then she left education for a little bit. For about 5 years, she was an owner-operator of the Cook Family Feed Barn, having trouble tonight. Then she did return to education, obviously, and began in 2022 as the Title I and 3rd grade teacher at Milroy. So welcome to Fayette County Schools and welcome to Everton. And if you'd like to say anything to the board, I don't know, I think we doubled the staff or something tonight, so welcome.
Thank you very much, and I just want to say thank you to the board for the approval there, and I am so excited to get started, and I can't tell you how my heart felt when I walked in and I saw all this blue here, so I am really excited to get started. As everybody is kind of excited to get this school year done. It goes quickly, but I can't wait to get started. So thank you so very much. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. And welcome to our community. You can all leave. Thank you. First person out the door.
If I can just look at everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to, I know I'm afar, but I just want to say, Mrs. Cook, we're so glad to have you, and what a blessing you're to be to our school corporation and our children, and great addition to our family. We have incredible administrators who work really hard for our kids, incredible teaching staff, support staff, and everything else, and you'll be right at home, and we're excited to have you. So I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, so to give you a proper introduction, I apologize. So thank you, Mr. Harris, for that. I also want to say, as part of the personnel report this evening, we do also have a replacement, if we can find one. I guess that's a tough word to use because Mr. Harris has been so great for our corporation, having a former superintendent in the seat in the office to help and support and to do the work has been amazing. But I'm elated to say that we were able to find another former superintendent, or current superintendent, I should say, who will have the opportunity to come into our office and serve, and that is Mr. Andy Stover. Andy Stover is currently the superintendent of Western Wayne Schools, just up the road. Mr. Stover has an extensive background in grant writing and leading a school district and innovative thinking and lots of things. He stepped into the superintendency pretty young, and so he's been at Western Wayne now for 4 years. The demands of the seat sometimes can be tough. It's a lot on a family, and so this role will hopefully give Andy the opportunity to take a step back from the superintendency and catch his breath. But I truly, truly believe that this will be a tremendous blessing for our school corporation. He's a man of great integrity. He's a people person. He's going to work really, really hard for kids. He's brought in over $5 million in grants to Western Wayne Schools, and so we are excited. Mrs. Cursaro, I know, has had a chance to spend some time with Andy as well, but we really believe that he's going to help our school corporation take the next step. And so I wanted to publicly welcome Andy to the corporation. Obviously, as a sitting superintendent, he's not with you this evening, but he'll be joining us. Randy's our date. Remind me of our date, but I want to say July 21st is what we discussed. Is that correct?
Yes.
As far as the official start date. So at some point in time between now and then, I'd love to get him in to have him meet you as a board. Maybe that happens at a board meeting beforehand or something, but I'll let you know. But excited to have Andy on board as part of the family.
Thank you.
All right, action items, approval of resolution 2025-02, residential districts.
Yeah, I'll just keep rolling here if it's okay. So we obviously, we've had some discussion about this previously. Our school corporation, we've had some decisions to make, and I kind of put this on the plate for you guys last month. Essentially, in the state of Indiana, there are 4 ways that districts are elected, board members are elected. One of those being they can be appointed by a judge or a county council. That's only about 4% of those school corporations in the state of Indiana. You can have everybody at large, which means they can come from anywhere in the district. Only about 6% of schools in the school corporation of the state use that methodology. The only problem there being, of course, that you could have 7 people from the same general geographic area. So it doesn't necessarily assure that we have an equal representation. We currently are part of what's called the electoral voting district, which essentially means that residents or candidates must reside within specific geographic boundaries and are elected solely by those voters in that area. So that's the way we currently are. About 12% of schools, ourselves included, are part of that. And then, of course, the one that we've discussed is the residential voting district, which means that candidates have to reside within those certain areas, but are voted on by everyone within the school corporation. And so that represents about 76% of the schools in the state. The reason why we're looking at this is because from the 2020 census, we had a population deviation that was more than allowable, more than the 15% that's allowed, and therefore we either have to move our district boundaries or move to a different type of election process. And so I have before you a resolution. That resolution was prepared by our school attorney. The resolution essentially says that here's the reason why we're going to start the process that we plan to start. What happens essentially is you approve that resolution this evening if we feel like that's the most appropriate thing for our school corporation and our community. After that, we'll go ahead and publish a notice in the newspaper that has to be published within 10 days of the board you approving the resolution. Then it essentially waits for 120 days, giving the public the opportunity to object or to speak out against that proposed plan. If there are no objections, then we essentially submit all required documents to the State Board of Education so that State Board will approve, hopefully, those changes. Don't see any issues with that change because, again, 76% of the school corporations in the state of Indiana subscribe to that. I did write an article for the newspaper just last week, 2 weeks ago, something like that, where just trying to be as transparent as possible with our community to make sure that everyone understands exactly what it is that we're stepping into. And so I would open the floor at this time for any questions related to the resolution that we have presented for you.
Can I speak to the why we kind of came to this? This is a hybrid. It still allows, the way we were doing things was something that was very historical. And as an old history teacher, it went back to 1787 on how we manage school districts. Having to redistrict every 10 years because of a census is just incredibly difficult to do. And it's very confusing for the population. This allows us to have local representation inside each of our existing districts. Every district will elect a person that actually lives there and has the interest there. The only difference is that everybody in the county in the school corporation, the county will be allowed to vote for them. As we consolidate more and we are all of one body, we all are interested in what is in the best interest of our kids. It doesn't matter whether we live in the city of Connersville, whether we live out by Alquina, whether we live out in Orange, it does not matter. So these kinds of considerations, when we still had so many of the county schools, it was a very different time back then. But now this allows us to really still have the local representation for the people in the area, but it also allows us to have a broader base and let people know we are doing things for the entire county, not just our particular area. And I don't think any of us have ever had a problem with that, but this just really solidifies this in a more permanent fashion.
Yeah, it's really well stated, Ann. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And just to make sure all of you know what you're voting on, I'll read the last part of the resolution, which actually says that you're voting on, number 1, the electoral district board member seats shall be eliminated and replaced with residential district board member seats. Number 2, the superintendent is authorized and directed to publish notice in accordance with Indiana Code 20-23-8-14 the adoption of this resolution amending the board's governing plan. And number 3, accept as otherwise amended by this resolution the provisions contained in the board's governing plan shall remain the same. And so that is what you're voting on tonight, is that shift essentially from the electoral district process to the residential district process. So President Baker, it would be my recommendation to approve that resolution as presented.
So
All
our
right.
district lines stay the same, right, as of right now? Like,
Yeah,
it
our
doesn't
district
change anything for
No,
any-
that's the beauty of it. Our district lines would remain exactly the same. And we haven't revisited these for a while, but with every time we have a census, which is every 10 years, we have shifts in population. So that would require us under this 15% situation to probably change our school representation districts every 6 years. We haven't done this since 2000. And because we maintained that 15%, the demographics of our county right now are such that we would have to make some very large moves at this
So the
point.
representation is exactly the same.
It's
The same
the same.
changes.
It's the same,
Yeah.
it's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing.
I will make a motion that we approve Resolution 2025-02 residential districts.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? All right. Education Hall of Fame Selection Committee appointments.
Yeah, so this is the process that you approve each and every year, and so we just have before you essentially a simple approval for appointing 4 individuals, including Ann, to our Hall of Fame committee. So pretty simple. If you have any questions, let me know.
Do we have guidelines? I'm sure we do. And will these be presented to the members? I've not been on this committee, as what the qualifications are, what the nominations involve, and how getting the information out to the public that we need nominations for the Hall of Fame. I know Mr. Hansen's here, the paper would be very helpful with that, and I'll, Mrs. Geesting, hopefully to put it on our Facebook page or other of our social media. And what, and the time frame on that, I know that there's a certain period of time to nominate people, and then the committee has to meet, and then we vote, and then these people are honored at another time. Do we have some sort of cheat sheet on how to go about all that?
Yes. Yes.
We do?
We do.
Good, thank you. Okay, I'm assuming that we did,
Yes,
but
we
I've not been on this committee and
Yeah.
I've not seen it.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So once again, we'll seek a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Approval of the Costa Rica Panama field trip.
Yeah, if you remember, we've talked, I believe we began the conversation a little bit back in the fall, but I believe it's within the purview of the board to approve all out-of-state and overnight field trips, particularly those like this one to a different country. And so I think that's something the board certainly should be in the loop on. And so we're working on a policy, haven't approved that one yet through our CCHA revisions. But I think it's good practice to bring those before you. And so we have 2 of those today. Looks like they're listed separately, so we'll need 2 separate approvals for that. This one to Costa Rica, it's Costa Rica and Panama. And so those are considered to be lower cost options, but still expensive. They're about $4,000 for the trip. There are scholarships available for students who can't afford that. But as we talk about our portrait for graduate, helping our students develop a global perspective on the world, but it's outside of Fayette County and outside the state of Indiana, I think these types of trips are invaluable for our kids. And so in my recommendation to approve that trip to Costa Rica and Panama as presented.
All right.
I so move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Yes. Approval of
Thank you
the
all.
out-of-state field trip.
It's the same, it would be the same thing, so you just do it.
Well, this is just the CMS choir going to Kings Island for their music in the park that we usually bring home, a lot of hardware. It's a great experience for the kids, and we have won that competition many times and also received other accolades for performing there. So, but because it's in Ohio, we have to get.
So we need a motion for that one.
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Approval of revised 2025-2026 and 2026-2027 school calendars.
So sorry to have to bring this back in front of you. We did talk a little bit last month about the fact that we may end up moving the registration date. That's all of what we're doing here. We're not moving anything related to the academic calendar, so to speak. And so it's pretty simple. What we had talked about doing is move registration up a week to give ourselves more time to get information in our systems, to prepare a bus routing. You remember Greg Keypaper was here at our last meeting to talk about bus routing and the importance of being using our software to help us save some money and fuel. And so we have since then had lots of conversations about the difference between enrollment and registration. And so we're working right now, and hopefully we'll have ready to go May 1st, a form that will go out to parents, essentially verifying their enrollment and their intent to return for next school year. That will essentially be the data that we use to help us with routing, and therefore we can leave registration right where it was. And so that registration dates will remain where they were before, so we don't have to ask people to come back into the office a week earlier and then have essentially a dead week where our offices are closed. So it'll work out better in the long run, and hopefully we'll have all the data Greg needs to be successful, Greg and Daryl and Lou in their routing. So anyway, it's a pretty easy approval. Again, nothing's changed with the academic calendar. We're just asking for approval, reapproval, I should say, based upon those registration date changes.
All right. And a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Leslie, in a second.
I'll second.
Sasha. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? School board policy, second reading and approval of updated policies. B200 membership, F150 use of credit cards, F200 investment income, F250 travel expenses, G250 pest control, G275 animals on school corporation property, G300 latchkey programs, G325 free and reduced price meals, G475 prohibition of unmanned aircraft.
So all the policies before you came for first reading last month. They've also gone through our policy team, which is Mrs. Kirchner and Sasha. And so they have been vetted by our staff as well. And so you see there B200, which is just essentially the basic layout of what the board is and what it looks like, and how we take the oath and how we fill vacancies and such. Use of credit cards, investment income, both been vetted by Randy and his team, as well as travel expenses. Pest control is something we do on a regular basis, and it spells out notification requirements of the school corporation. Animals on school property essentially spells out companion animals, service animals, different things like that in terms of our policies and procedures. Latchkey programs, unless you apply for a waiver, are required by the state of Indiana. We have a great latchkey program provided by an outside partner that just spells out the procedures. Free and reduced meals are pretty straightforward. And then prohibition of unmanned aircraft. I think we talked about this briefly last month, but essentially they're essentially not to be used on our property without the permission of myself or a designee, and that's for the safety of our children. So my recommendation to approve the second reading of those policies as presented.
So I seek a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve these policies.
I will second that.
And Chris. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Discussion items, school board policy first reading for updated policies C425 student suicide prevention and awareness, C600 withdrawal from school, E225 college and university programs, G125 criminal organization activity, G425 pledge of allegiance and moments of silence, H200 relations with special interest groups.
This was a interesting group of policies. I think Sasha would agree. This was a really interesting group of policies to go through. Some of these things are policies like the C425 or student suicide prevention and awareness. there were some holes in the fact that we were required to have certain things available, and we're still working on doing that. And to have this as a policy to make sure that we are filling those holes as we can so we can comply, I think is incredibly important. And also the withdrawal from school, how we don't want our kids to drop out of school. And we have some policies of that, and some very strong procedures to try to encourage families not to go that route. College and university programs, we already use those. We actually took out a couple of these, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually took out a couple of these that were there on first reading, because we want to look at them a little bit, we want to look at them a little bit more carefully. The one on naming, I think was in that original batch.
Yeah, I was going to say, and thank you so much for that information. I have a few, I'll talk about during the superintendent discussion portion that I haven't brought before you yet, because we need to have some discussion about those and make sure we're all comfortable with where we're going with those. The ones before you, student suicide and prevention and awareness, essentially just spells out that policy for making sure that our staff are trained, and it also talks to what we do in the event that we have a student who has self-harm ideations and how we respond as a school corporation. Withdrawal from school, as Ann mentioned, this is essentially for those kiddos who want to drop out from school. The state of Indiana essentially has certain things that have to be there, conditions that have to be met to essentially do this. So you have to have an exit interview that's conducted. The parent or guardian consents to withdrawal. The student, the principal approves the withdrawal, and the withdrawal essentially is due to financial hardship. This does spell out essentially if the principal says no to a student withdrawal, it does have a process by which a student can essentially petition for that to be overturned. And so we're working on a little bit of revision to our high school withdrawal form. Mrs. Plum has been working on that a little bit, and so that way we can meet the expectations of this policy if approved. College and university programs, pretty standard. Criminal organization is required by law. Essentially, that's your gang policy, if you will. Pledge of Allegiance, we essentially require students to stand during the Pledge of Allegiance. They don't have to necessarily participate in the pledge, but we do ask them to respectfully and quietly stand during that and the moment of silence. Nothing else is asked of them but that. And so obviously we're hopeful that students all participate, but at the same time they have the right to their own expression. So, and then relations with special interest groups, a very standard policy as well, that will have a administrative guideline that goes along with that. So be my recommendation. I guess we're not approving this, so I guess there's no recommendation. I apologize. These are just for first reading. If you have feedback on those, let me know. We do have several other policies, as mentioned, that are in the docket to be approved at later dates, and we're still working our way through those and the intricacies of those. So I thank you for your feedback on those if you've provided that so far. And I'll talk about a few of those here in a few minutes.
All right. Public comments. Persons wishing to make the board aware of suggestions, ideas, or comments may address the board at this time. Comments which involve personnel or students must be discussed in private.
The audience is really small.
All right. I think we will move on to superintendent's discussion group reports.
The only thing I want to say is 5 board members and Mr. Duncan went to the National School Board Association National Conference this past weekend, and it's always a wonderful thing when school board members can continue their education, because we don't get as many opportunities, and we have a lot of information that comes at us every month, and it helps when we've been able to learn from others. So I want to thank the taxpayers on our behalf for allowing that to happen. We had a good time, and hopefully we all got some learning in, so thank you to all.
I guess we will move on to principals, directors reports.
Just real quick, Greg went to some training this past week and got a lot of good valuable lessons. So we're going to meet with Randy and Kim and Jeremy to go over some changes that we can make. Hopefully by registration, if we can get ready, we'll have a QR code that they will scan. They will know about their email will be put in, and then we'll get information through that email, buses, everything else. So we'll have that once we talk to Randy and Jeremy and put some things in place and make sure the rules are where he wants them. So we'll have that information soon.
Awesome.
Thanks, Joe.
Director of Operations report.
I feel so lonely over here.
You think Randy's sick?
Yeah, people want to stay away from him.
Yeah, no, I'm really not sick. And you'll notice there's no financial report in front of you. I apologize for that a little bit. First off, the date of the 8th of the month is the earliest we can have a board meeting, which makes it tougher to balance the books and check everything, as well as the fact Tina, we lost her a couple of days last week. She made a little bit of an unscheduled stop, but all's well. She went to Connecticut to be there when her daughter had a grandchild. I guess her daughter had a daughter, but it was Tina's grandchild. So I will have that. We'll go through it next month. The other thing, we obviously hired one principal tonight. Between now and the next board meeting, we will be working with committees again. Kim and I looking towards filling the vacancy we have with the retirement of Mia McCreary at Frazee, and we'll be looking for a principal to fill that position. So it's just that time of year. We're actually probably ahead of the game a little bit, but there's lots of personnel changes and lots of finance changes. And I would say I wait with bated breath to see how our legislature does, but every time they come out with more news, it never seems to me to be good news. So we'll see what happens there in the next. The legislature does have to be done by April the 29th, I believe, and their intent, I think, is to be done by April the 25th. So that's all I have.
Assistant Superintendent's report.
Just a couple of things. First of all, summer school is going to be held June 2nd through the 26th at Grandview Elementary. We are not having summer school for middle school or high school. We haven't had middle school summer school for a long time, but we're not offering high school because we have such a dwindling number of PE students, and that's typically the only course that we offer for summer school. So elementary students will be getting their information if they are qualified for summer school, and it's mainly going to be second and third graders that haven't passed the iRead 3. I told you I would be bringing you back the iRead 3 results because the state has given us another opportunity. Our third graders have another opportunity before they attend summer school. We're getting to retest some of them, all of them actually, again, and give them another opportunity. So as the principals wanted to have that opportunity before we share the results. So hopefully in May, before summer school, then I'll be able to give you the exact results of our kids. We have to also take into consideration those who are second graders. If they remain as a student at Fayette County, then they count in the numbers. So it's kind of moving the puzzle pieces around, making sure we have accurate numbers before we put them out to you guys. That's all I have.
All right, Superintendent's report.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll try not to take too much time here, but I do want to just give a few updates. I know we talked about the pool project earlier. I did put something out publicly just a few weeks ago, but I do want to make sure everyone's aware that in that pool project, we did find some non-friable mastic asbestos, and I have noted that before that is not uncommon. In fact, that would be any building that's built in the the 60s and 70s would have asbestos. The fact that it's non-friable essentially means that it's not airborne. It's really not dangerous to anyone unless you essentially ingest it. And so it's mastic, which essentially means it's in glue on the floor. And so we'll still go through the process of abatement. That process is a process that's very similar, or the same, I should say, that we used at Frazee for the very same thing. We expect to continue to find that as we work our way through buildings, and then every time we'll notify on that first time that we found it, and we'll notify our folks and make sure everybody's on the same page with that. Ran into a bit of a snag today with our baseball and track bleachers. We're working our way through those difficulties, but we had certainly hoped that our baseball bleachers would be done by the time we opened our baseball season. That unfortunately did not happen. And so still, like I said, working our way through that, but more to come on that. I'll report back to you on that as we go. Let's see, kindergarten roundup is April 9th and 10th, so make sure that date is out there. We've sent some mailers and we put some things out on social media from 3 to 6 p.m. So come on, come all. We have great opportunities for children here at Fayette County, and so looking forward to our new batch of kindergartners coming with us. We want to give a big shout out to everybody. Obviously, we've had some weather-related issues. Our board experienced that trying to get back home the other day. We sat on a runway and a rocking plane with the wind. It's that time of year, certainly, but our county, our city worked really, really hard to get roadways clear for us. That way we could get our kids to school. Obviously had a delay the other day. I just want everyone to know that when we call a delay like that, the reason was the other day is we weren't confident that those roadways were clear enough, especially in dark, to say that they were safe for our kids and our buses. And so we felt like 2 hours and some additional daylight would give us the opportunity for people to see if there was water on the road, to see if there were trees on the road. And so I thank Daryl and his team and Randy and everyone else for their help as I was making that decision from an airport. And so, but I think it was the right call for our kids. I do want to congratulate Terry. I meant to do this last month and I just missed it. But Terry Miller was appointed to the HEC board. If you're not familiar with what that is, that's a statewide organization that promotes technology in the state of Indiana, technology education. And so just want to commend Terry for his work statewide and also for us here in our corporation. So congratulations to Terry on it. Also, just really quickly, our directional team will be headed down south to Kentucky on April the 24th to visit Buddy Berry's school district in Eminence, Kentucky. Buddy was with us at our January 20th professional development, had some really good words to say to our staff, and was very inspirational. And so we're going to go take a look at what he does. I believe firmly that when we get out of our context and we see how other people do things and we steal ideas and take things from others, we learn a great deal more than if we're just staying within our own area. So we're going to go learn from him and hopefully bring some ideas back. I'm super excited about that. And so I did mention a minute ago that we have a few policies that we need to chew on. One of those policies is our naming rights policy. Essentially, what is our procedure for if we choose, and I know that was brought up at our last meeting, naming the baseball field after our good friend Mark Beard, and so what does that process look like? And so I have put that out to the board. That was a CCHA policy that did have some specifics in regards to the steps that shall be taken in the event that we want that to happen. And so I guess I just open the floor if there are comments or concerns or questions in that regard as far as what that process may look like.
I don't really have any questions. I know when you sent us the information, there were some administrative guidelines. Is that right?
And I'm looking here really quickly, let's say, as you asked that question.
I thought
there were, but I rewrote one and sent it to just you two before our meeting. I didn't send it to everyone yet, but I guess I should.
Yeah.
I figured you would, so I didn't, but after our meeting.
Yeah, because I don't know if that was the hang up. I know you emailed us about it and had some concerns. Just the process and recognizing that there are a lot of significant people in Fayette County School Corporation's history and wanting to be sure if we name anything after anybody that we give careful consideration and recognize that there are a lot of special people that have contributed to our schools, and not wanting to slight anybody and not wanting to get into any kind of situation where every day we have another recommendation to name something after somebody. So is that part of what kept you from bringing it forward, or did you want to, elaborate?
Yeah, no, Leslie, I think that's a really good synopsis, if you will, of and not, I wouldn't say they're concerns necessarily. I just want to make sure that we're all comfortable with the fact that is something to consider. The policy essentially speaks to both naming rights and recognition of folks. And so it essentially says recognition of outstanding service to the corporation or outstanding service to the community, recognition of achievements of distinguished alumni, or recognition of generous financial or other contribution from a donor, such contribution being voluntary and not rendered in consideration of grants or naming rights. So obviously those three are in recognition. And it does also speak to a little bit to monetary valuation of naming rights. If you have a corporation that would come in and want to donate a large sum of money in exchange for naming something after their corporation for a certain period of time. And so I'm happy to bring this to you for first reading in its current form. At our next meeting, we can talk about Sasha's revisions as well if we need to. And I don't know, Sasha, I can't remember if your revisions, it wasn't a red line version, was it necessarily where we could see the changes?
It was changed quite a decent amount. And
Was it the policy or the administrative guidelines?
the policy.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I'll send it out today to everyone.
Okay.
They were
And I don't know if it's too late to be able to see like a red line version. That might be too hard for you to go back and do now at this point, but I guess we can lay them out and compare them ourselves as far as what those changes were. Do you know specifically like what type of changes you made?
I know mine did not include if someone wanted to donate a large amount of money. Actually, I think it stated something kind of opposite of that. And then, I'm trying to think.
The other one was about the, who was going to make the final decision, I think. It was like, the implication was that it was the administration that was going to make the final decision, and somehow there was nothing specific that it was going to be presented to the board, and I think that kind of made people feel, not that we don't trust our administrators to do this, but we have, as board members, we have to go back to the people that we live with and say, well, why did you name this after so-and-so? So if this would change that a little bit.
Would it make more sense?
Instead of us voting for the naming instead of just one or two people, since it's such a big thing, like it's stuck.
So,
Would it make sense, Jeremy, since you have Sasha's revision, could you, instead of her having to send it to us, if you want to redline it and maybe, obviously not till you're back sometime, but since it's not till the next meeting, there's plenty of time to kind of show them side by side. I don't know that we're in a hurry that we have to know right away.
No.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, and I mean, Sasha, I might need your help on that as I work up my way through that. Maybe we just sit down and look at both, and I can understand exactly where you're going, and that might be helpful to have you present with that. So I'll make myself a note to put that on my to-do list here. We'll get that done, okay?
Would it be helpful to look at the history, because we've done this before, and I don't know how we named the Meisner Auditorium at the middle school after Meisner, and then we named the Wise Center. So we've had a history in the last 25 years of doing exactly what we're kind of talking about. Might be interesting to see what procedure
We just may not have had a policy that correlated.
We didn't have a policy that
We've
correlated.
never had a policy written that correlates with that, but that has happened, and I'm not really sure any of us know why or what the rationale was.
I'm just curious, because we had this policy, and we've done it before, and how did we do it? Did we just do it, have it without any policy or particular procedure set in stone?
We currently do not have a written policy around this.
Okay.
So I know we have the NEF Center also that we need to not forget about.
Oh, I forgot about that, I'm sorry.
Careful how far we take this, because can I pay to have lane 3 and 4 named after my daughters?
Right.
For the pool? So I mean, I think we really have to
That's why
look at this, because you got people that are donating a lane at track, lanes at pools.
Right.
Where, you gotta be careful where that's gonna stop.
Well, and also at the little Spartan preschool, there's a little garden area that's in memory of one of the,
I forget, yeah.
yeah, one of the founders over there too.
Fayette Central has a garden area too that.
Yeah, so it's, clearly these are things that we have had to deal with, but we've really never had a distinct policy for this. But to Daryl's point, yeah, we could have, we could be opening,
Pandora's
we could be opening a can of worms here. So we better make sure we have a policy.
Yeah, we'll work on some things for you. I'll look at Sasha's proposed policy and we'll lay those things next to each other. I'll get you a red line version here in the next few weeks and we'll continue to have a conversation about what this means. And it does sound like that there is certainly an appetite for exploring this and having something in writing. And then from there, we can make some decisions if we chose, or if you chose the board, I should say, to name something after someone. So we'll get to work on that and we'll keep moving down that road. We do have a few other policies in the docket. I do want to give Wendy Pyle recognition for her work on the wellness policy with our wellness team, and I'll be bringing that to you at the next meeting. I just didn't get that turned around in time. And we've had some discussion about East 275, the drug-free workplace. I think we've settled on that for the most part. I don't know if we need to necessarily have a public conversation about that this evening. And then we have a few others that have just been waiting there with some things as far as internal controls and such that we just need to make sure are properly vetted before we bring them before you. So two more things just really quickly. I do want to say, I think, is Kelly still there? Kelly Plum? I think we have a high school play coming up. She's gone already. I shouldn't say already, it's been a while, sorry. But high school play coming up, I think Friday night this week, and I also want to say we have a Striving for Change Town Hall coming up on April 23rd from 6 to 9 with Krista and the work that she's doing, which is fantastic. And so also, publicly want to say thank you to Mrs. Rich and her team at Dry River Middle School who put together a really awesome charity basketball game. I don't know, it seems like, I can't remember exactly where that fell. I don't think we've necessarily said that thank you publicly yet, so there it is. It was a lot of fun. I'm offended that I was invited to coach and not play. I did find my way on the floor as a player at one point with my loafers, and I will tell you that I got fouled. That's all I'll say.
You also fouled?
I probably did. Yes, you are correct.
At least he owns it.
And you did not mention who won that game.
Well, I think somebody had fingers on the sideline pushing buttons that may not have been using the correct numbers as they made baskets.
Just sore losers, guys. Faculty were just sore losers by 1 point, by the way. So, but it was great. We raised about $500, and since we had not done this in like 5 years since COVID, I look back because I was involved with it from its inception, and I think the first year that we did it, we made about $500. So we restarted that process again, and the kids loved it, and the fact that the kids beat the faculty made for a very happy day.
I'm sure.
I do want to say just really quickly in closing, just thank you to the board for giving me the flexibility to do the meeting online. I know this is very unconventional. I've never missed a board meeting as a superintendent, so it's a little uncomfortable for me not to be there with you in person, but the learning opportunity is wonderful. And I do want to make sure the public understands and knows too that it was a scholarship, so this trip here that I'm on right now, I'm learning and growing with incredible people from all over the world, really, was at no cost to the school corporation. So really blessed to have the opportunity to learn and grow here. So thank you for the flexibility to be here and to be online.
I paid the biggest price.
You're where it's warm. We had snow flurries here today. We're not going to go there.
You did talk to me at 2 o'clock this morning this time.
Can I add?
I have been setting my alarm for 2 o'clock in the morning every morning to get up and make sure that everything's okay. So the life of a superintendent.
The play is Friday night and Saturday night at 7, and then also Sunday afternoon.
Thank you.
I guess he's finished.
He's finished.
All right, for the good of the cause.
I have 2. One, as a father, my youngest daughter Reese is getting married Saturday. And as of September 22nd, I will have my first granddaughter.
Awesome.
Whoa!
Taxes.
I'm assuming it was packed.
Yeah, taxes due. So pretty proud. Thank you.
Good.
That's
a great good of the cause.
Thanks, welcome to Camp Grandpa.
Thank you, I'm excited.
Yeah,
Congrats.
super.
I've learned a lot, Grandpa's leaving, so I mean.
You gotta take over.
Yeah,
He's not even paying
He's not
attention
even
to you.
responding.
told you he was a grandpa.
That's exciting, that's so cool.
Anyone else for the good of cause? All right. The one we've all been waiting for.
I'll make that motion.
And I will second it.
All right. Motion
Now
is
we
second.
finally It's the first time we've seen him on the screen.
All those in favor? Opposed?